under the Conservation Act. Meetings have been well received so far and would continue to be scheduled as needed. And finally, senior staff have also been continuing to present the draft 2022 budget as requested as in previous years. This month's presentations were provided to Guelph, Mapleton, and the region of Waterloo councils. So those are my notes. Thank you. And now we're going to have a review of the agenda. Can I get a motion that the agenda for the Source Protection Authority meeting be approved as circulated? Moved by John, seconded by Dan. Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Hearing and seeing none. Minutes of the previous minutes, that the minutes of the Source Protection Authority meeting of September 24th, 2021 be approved as circulated. Moved by Bernie, seconded by Jerry. Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Oh, none of that stuff. Down to 12.1. I have a motion that the Grand River Source Protection Authority appoint Larry Davis as an economic agricultural representative on the Lake Erie Region Source Protection Committee for a 4-year term as recommended by the Lake Erie Management Committee. If there are no questions, can I get a mover for that? Moved by Joan, seconded by Richard. Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. And that is it. So that meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you.
Sorry, can we get a mover and seconder, please, Chris?
Sorry, yeah. Can I get a mover to adjourn, please? Moved by Guy, seconded by Kathy. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you. So we'll move right into the general membership meeting. We'll call it to order and quorum again. I suppose not much has changed.
That's correct. Same number of members, 21.
Okay, so we'll move right into the agenda. I have a motion that the agenda for the general membership meeting be approved as circulated. Moved by Les, seconded by Ian. Any opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Minutes of the previous meeting, that the minutes of the general membership meeting of October 22nd, 2021 be approved as circulated. Moved by John, seconded by Ian. Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. So no, so right down into reports. We're down to 12.1. I'm just going to put, I'll put the motion on the floor that the minutes of the Ad Hoc Conservation Authorities Act Committee meeting held on October 29th, 2021 be received as information. Moved by Joan, seconded by Jane. Any questions on that? So that's, we've been meeting, as you know, as an ad hoc committee to try to keep an eye on what's handling with the change in the regulations. And we have an item just coming up shortly that we've basically put together the initial requirement of the province to lay out a transition plan. So the minutes are there for the ad hoc committee. Are there any questions on that? Are there any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Moving on to 12.2. That the Grand River Conservation Authority draft transition plan be approved, and that the draft transition plan be circulated to all participating municipalities, and that the finalized transition plan be presented to the general membership for approval at the December meeting. Moved by Bernie, seconded by Catherine. Questions? So again, this is just a step. We need to put this into the province to meet that timeline. But as we know and have discussed, we're going to be refining this moving forward and meeting with all the municipalities. Staff have a long road ahead of them. So are there any opposed to that motion? That is carried. Thank you. All right. Cash and investment status. That report number GM 112177. Cash and investment status, October 2021, be received as information. Moved by John, seconded by Ian. Any questions? Any opposed? Carried. Financial summary, that the financial summary for the period ending October 31st, 2021 be approved. Moved by Bruce Banbury, seconded by Jerry. Questions? Opposed? Boy, I hope my budget meeting goes like this. All right, moving on to report 12.5. I don't have that report in front of me. Karen, can you read the full motion, please?
It's approximately 2 pages long, Mr. Chair.
Okay, does anybody need me to read it? So can I get a mover for that motion? Moved by John, seconded by Brian. Are there any questions? Are there any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. All right. Complimentary GRC membership, the report number GM 112181 2022 complimentary GRC membership passes be received as information. Moved by Mr. Nowak, seconded by Sue. Any questions? Any opposed? That is carried.
Oh,
Sorry, go ahead. Kevin, how are you? Question?
If only to stop the late speed at which this meeting's proceeding.
Well, thank you. I was running out of track here.
Yeah. So this is interesting. It's free passes in the city of Brantford before my time here. We had quite the discussion here about that. I'm sure many other municipalities have, and generally the policy is none. And wondering if we might want to really give that some thought. I think we're falling out of sync with a lot of other public organizations that no longer do this. I realize it generates goodwill with employees and retirees, but it also creates a sense of resentment amongst the populace that we're getting a freebie, and freebies aren't popular. And so I'm wondering if it isn't time we really kind of rethink that as to whether or not that makes sense. And I know for myself, I'd be happy to pay the season's pass, and I do that with other conservation authorities like Hamilton Wentworth, but mind you, I'm not a member of it. But just to say that it's kind of a philosophical statement that we're not here to get freebies, we're here to serve, and what applies to the population applies to us as well. And I think that deserves some merit and consideration. So I will not be supporting this. I might be supporting it if it's for certain types of employees, but that's my position.
All right,
Kevin.
Kevin.
I generate some discussions, but I guess we want the meeting to go past 10
All
o'clock.
right, Jane, go ahead.
Okay, there we go. Oh, hold on. There we go. Back again. Picked the wrong one. Okay, the reason these originally were done, particularly for the members, is that so the members would go out and examine all our conservation areas, and really it's part of our job. We don't really get any freebies, maybe breakfast and when we come back, but there's not a lot of freebies in this organization. The other thing is that the MPs and the MPPs and the members of councils, that's done specifically politically so that they will go and look at the conservation areas and realize how good they are and support them. And I believe that that has worked over the years. So I will be voting for this.
All right. Any, somebody else? I'm sorry. Karen, no.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, just one point of clarification. This report actually was being presented as information. So if we are looking for different direction, that would require a different motion.
Okay. Can we receive this for information? And then what would be the thought if somebody wants to bring forward a different motion? I don't think we can just drop that on the floor here. Well, let's continue to discuss this motion first. For information is what we've got. Okay. John, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. That probably is I was going to talk about, first of all, process, and I think, yeah, you receive it for information, and then perhaps if Kevin wants to bring forward a motion at some point for debate, then that's the appropriate way to do it. But I would say in defense of the process, as has been raised earlier this morning, this is an important public affairs component. It really is important that other levels of government see what is happening. And the only way they're going to do that is if they have access to our facilities. And I think it's also important that conservation members who choose to have that same opportunity to get into the parks and other facilities and see what's going on. And it really is, at the end of the day, a nominal amount of money. And I've seen organizations that didn't do this, and they've suffered for it in terms of of perception by other levels of government and other influencers. So I'd recommend we do it if you want to put it under, the public relations budget, if that's a concern. But I am supportive of what is taking place today.
Thanks, John. Sue?
I was going to say everything John said, so ditto.
Okay. All right, Helen?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that I never used mine before I was chair. And I have to be honest, you don't want to go into a park saying you're chair or anything, but when they see that you're a board member because of the past, the staff get really excited to see us. Like it's, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like, oh, wow, they actually come to the parks, So I'm looking at this as an opportunity to tell you guys, if you get a chance, go out to the parks and let them know you're a board member. It actually means a lot to the people in the parks. They work pretty hard for us. So that's all.
All right. Are there any further thoughts on this? So in terms of process, Karen, go ahead, Kevin.
Just unmute. I'll lower my hand. Yeah, sometimes I like to swim up the river. But seriously, so do we have any data on the uptake? Like how many heads of council and employees use this? And has it ever been that data collected? Like just how many are using this?
Through you, Chair White, we typically don't collect data based on individual membership cards. I'm not actually even sure if our system, and we're in a transition with our system right now. I'm not sure that our system ever actually functioned in that way.
Yeah.
Certainly I know staff
Right.
are frequent users of the passes. I don't have specific data about it, but certainly that is feedback that we receive. This is a typical thing that's done throughout conservation authorities in Ontario, that certainly employees get it, as do board members. I can't speak to the extent of it, but.
Okay. I'm prepared to put a motion on the floor, Chair, whenever you feel that's appropriate.
Is it? Okay, let me just I have a motion on the floor at this time for information. Let me get through that first. Richard?
Thank you. Yeah, I don't think a motion on the floor would have to be on the agenda first, and it's not on the
Okay.
agenda, so I don't think that'd be appropriate. But when we talk about Bellwood Lake, we talk about all parts of the watershed. We as members should know these parts. We should know what they look like. We should know what their existence is. We should know how they're kept, not just that they're looking at a map. So, by the way, not everything we do in Brantford I agree with. So I disagree with the mayor on this one. In fact, I think that this is very important for members. I haven't gotten out to all the places, but I certainly should and would like to as an active member of this board. So I'll support this wholeheartedly. I think when we got rid of it in Brantford, it was to our detriment. A lot of facilities have been changed since then. Thank you.
Okay, so Karen, just because I just want to make sure I get the board policies correct here. I have a motion on the floor. If Kevin wants to bring forward a motion, would he amend this one, or can we receive this and then he can put a motion on the floor? Helen, did you want to say something first?
Yeah, well, Chair, I was actually going to say, could we make a friendly amendment to get a staff report? Because it sounds like it's historically been always this way, and maybe there's some information they could gather to see the relevance and benefits, cost benefit analysis. So I was either looking for a deferral for a staff report or a friendly amendment around the same. I don't know, just to kind of move us along, but whatever.
Okay, I think I'd like to get it on the floor. And frankly, I don't, as Karen indicated, I don't think our system has the capability for having staff at the gate to mark down everybody who comes in and how long they've been there and what they've done. That's a real bureaucratic step we're adding here. I mean, my thought would be that this is part of the job. The pass isn't so you can go to the park, it's so you can get in and do yourself. Michael Harris?
Yeah, from what I understand, this is just a information report. There's no motion unless a member brings one forward. If that's, am I not correct in saying it's just an information report?
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is we're going to vote on the information report right now. And if Kevin wants to bring forward a motion, we'll take that motion.
Okay. Yeah, and
Okay.
I guess when I've got the floor here, if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
I'd echo John Challoner's comments. I mean, you know, this is far different from, you know, what we've heard of in the past that politicians get for free, you know, via blah, blah, blah. I mean, we're really, this is, I was actually at Laurel Creek on the weekend. I did my family photos just outside the gate, and I went in and I said hi to the staff. And I know, to Helen's point, that they appreciate board members coming by and getting a good sense of what's going on and thanking them for their, you know, working and so forth. So, you know, this is maybe a more of a petty political ploy, frankly. I think this is a very viable tool, and all members should get out to all GRCA properties, thank the staff, see what's out there. And again, it's part of the role.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to vote on this motion first that's on the floor. We're going to talk in circles here. So there's a motion on. Sorry, go ahead, Kevin, and then we're moving on.
Yeah, just one thing. I think wasn't there a federal minister who thought a glass of orange juice wouldn't have meant much. So that, you know, perception is very important. But regardless, you know, I'd say this. I mean, I pay for Hamilton Wentworth Conservation Authority pass out of my own pocket because I like to go there to their facilities and kind of compare them to GRCA facilities, and many of which I know because I spend a lot of time up and down the river. But in any event, I don't want to breach the procedural rules of this organization. So I think what I'll do is I'll talk to the chair after the meeting. And but I do think maybe it would be healthy to collect some data, whatever we can, cheaply, and consider this. So I'll talk to you, Mr. Chair, after the meeting to determine if I want to do that and what that would look like.
Okay, and what I might suggest, and we'll have the chat when we do the motion, it should be a full motion, and the board should decide whether or not we're going to run around doing a bunch of data collection and all that stuff. So for the motion on the floor, I did get a mover and a seconder, I believe. So can I?
Yes, Joe Nowak moved, seconded by Sue Foxon.
Okay, thank you. So any opposed to receiving this for information? So Kevin, if you'd like to, we'll figure out what kind of motion you want to bring forward at a future meeting or whatever. All right, thank you. So getting back on the speedy train, wherever I was. So that's the fees. So moving along to 12.7, I believe, I'm correct?
Yes.
That the proposed 2022 conservation area user fees be approved and become effective as of January 1st, 2022. Moved by Richard, seconded by Brian. Any questions? Bernie, do you have a question?
Yes, I did. Thank you. I know some of the increases are 3%, some are 5%. It speaks to alignment. Could you give further information on what type of alignment you're talking about? That it would mean in certain areas 5%, other areas 3%.
Okay, I think that would be for Pam. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, through you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for the question, Bernie. I appreciate that. So at Bing Island, specifically when talking about the 3% and the 5%, it was the waterfront sites. So they have a premium view of the river. They're located right on the water, and they're very different from some of the other service sites that we have in the park that don't have the view. So we're trying to align them with more of the amenities that those sites have, the specific amenities. And in cases like Conestoga Park, where we were aligning it with the 5% increase at that park, they had been undervalued in comparison to the other conservation areas that we have for seasonal camping. So it's just trying to get a better value on what the site offers and making the prices more realistic. So one's not having an unfair advantage over the other one. So, or a premium waterfront view over a regular service campsite.
Does that do it, Bernie? All right. Thank you, Pam. Are there any further questions? Ian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quick question regarding the Elora Quarry. Is access limited only to people with vehicles, or can you accept people who walk in? Because I'm just looking at the total number of fees for someone to attend the quarry. If you're paying for parking, plus if you're an adult bringing a child, it does become rather expensive.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Ian, for asking that. The quarry, you can walk in. When you make a reservation, you can choose to pay for parking or not. So that's our way of encouraging local town local town people from Elora to come in, to walk in, to ride their bicycle. There's no fee for that. You just book your reservation and you can come into the park. Out of towners and people who have to drive do have to pay for the parking space.
Okay, anything further? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Again, thank you, Pam. Moving along to 12.8, that the proposed 2022 permit planning and inquiry fee schedule be approved and become effective as of January 1st, 2022. Moved by Richard, seconded by Les. Questions? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. 12.9, that the Grand River Conservation Authority retain R.J. Burnside and Associates to provide consulting services related to water and sanitary servicing for a term of 3 years and an option to extend the assignment for up to 2 additional 1-year terms, and that the total budget of $157,136.86, excluding HST, be approved, which includes the 3-year assignment, 2 optional 1-year terms, and a 10% contingency. Moved by John, seconded by Sue. Questions? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. 12.10, that the Grand River Conservation Authority award the tender for the life safety systems upgrades at the GRCA head office to Live Electric of Cambridge, Ontario, for the amount of $114,944.20, excluding HST, and that a total budget of $134,944.20, excluding HST, be approved. Moved by Catherine, seconded by Kathy. Questions? Opposed? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Moving along to 12.11, update on lands declared surplus in Guelph, that the Grand River Conservation Authority general membership received GM 112186 update on the lands declared surplus as information. Moved by Sue, seconded by Jerry. Are there any questions on this? Any opposed? Oh, sorry, Bruce, go ahead. Bruce Whale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question on the Lou Fantato site. I think there's another family name that goes with Shortreed, I believe. With all of these stones or parts of the structure that have been asked to be identified and stored, who is providing storage for that? Does GRCA have to find a place to store all of this until it's determined whether it'll be used again or reconstructed? It seems like an awful complicated process to get rid of one house.
Sam?
Yeah, if Beth is on the line, I'll get Beth to.
Okay, Beth.
Sure, through you, Mr. Chair. One of the requirements was that the salvage materials was transported to the city's works yard. So that was done. So the stone was transported to the city's works yard to be utilized in the future for any rehabilitation of other heritage buildings.
Yeah, I think the city has a couple of these, so they've got a history of being able to do this. Are there any further questions then? Call the question. Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Now, snowmobiling on GRCA properties. That the Grand River Conservation Authority enter into a license agreement with the Lake Erie Conestoga Snowmobilers Incorporated for the use of a seasonal cottage, auxiliary structures, and to establish a snowmobile trail network, provided mutually agreeable revisions to the licensing agreement are made. I'll get it on the floor and then we'll take questions. Moved by Brian, seconded by Ian. Questions? Kevin?
Yeah, I'd be interested in knowing, have we received any complaints about snowmobilers, or have we received requests by other users, either those that might be cross-country skiing or snowshoeing, if they want to access the same area, and are all those activities compatible?
Who should I give that to, Sam? Beth?
Beth.
Pam? Pam?
Nope, Beth.
Beth, okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair. We haven't received complaints, I would say, as there hasn't been snowmobiling on GRCA land since 2019. However, when we were doing the evaluation and discussions with the snowmobile clubs, we did look at consideration for trails that were multi-use, and that was kind of one factor that we were looking at, trying to reduce the trail network where multiple users are allowed to lessen potential user conflicts.
So, okay. So as everybody recalls, in 2019, the insurance changed for the snowmobile groups. We felt we had a greater liability, so we've been talking to them since that time, trying to see what we can accommodate. And in this particular case, it looks like we might be able to work something out with the Conestoga folks. It's probably about 11 kilometers of trail. We've probably got about 62 kilometers. In some places it'll fit, some places it won't. So we've brought the professional folks in, the lawyers and the insurance people, to have direct discussions. And we're doing all we can to accommodate this without putting the GRC at risk. So with that said, are there any further questions? Michael, and then I'll get back to Kevin. Michael, go ahead.
A quick comment, Chris, and thanks again to yourself and our staff, Samantha, Beth, and others that continue to work with the snowmobile clubs. Obviously, this is an unfortunate situation. Snowmobiling is a major economic driver, winter activity here in Ontario, Quebec. It's huge. And this has shut off a major artery for a lot of these snowmobile clubs, forcing snowmobilers on the road, which is obviously very dangerous and so forth. So I just, obviously it's a small step in the right direction here, perhaps with Conestoga in the near future. And hopefully we can continue to make progress. So just thanks for that.
Thank you, Michael. Yes, staff's been working very hard. It seems like a simple issue, but it's incredibly complex. Kevin?
Yeah, it is, because that's an activity I used to snowmobile and cross-country ski and snowshoe. So there's an inherent conflict in the users, and it does create resentment. I've seen it firsthand at some of the parks. So, and I realize it's maybe not completely on subject, but I'd be interested in knowing how we resolving the different users, which in many ways do conflict with one another and creates resentment. And my last question is this snowmobiling area that we're proposing, is it part of a provincial network of trails, or is it sort of just standalone on its own?
Do you want to try to take that one, Beth, or?
Sure, through you, Mr. Chair. That is one of the considerations that we looked at, where the trails were multi-users. So that's something that we factored in to try to reduce GRCA's risk, was to look at trails that were on properties with very limited users. So that's why we're not looking at an agreement on trails like the Lower Cataract Trail, for example, where there are multiple users. So that is what we factored into the decision that's before you today, is to try to reduce snowmobile trails to properties that have limited other users. Sorry, and you had a second question.
Yeah, is it part of the provincial network, or is it just sort of a standalone trail?
It would be part of the OFSC network. So this trail that we're proposing is operated by the Conestoga Club. However, it would be open to OFSC users, so it would be part of the provincial network.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Okay, any further questions? Okay, any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Moving along to 12.13. That report number GM 112178, current watershed conditions as of November 17th, 2021, be received as information. Moved by Sue, seconded by Joe. Are there any questions or anybody like an update? Are we good? Any opposed?
Sorry, Richard, there are questions.
Go ahead. Sorry, Richard, go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted, looking at what's happening in British Columbia, it shows why there's such a need for GRCA. They don't have a coordinated system, British Columbia, hence the problems that they've had, but not maintaining their systems and updating them. We're updating on all our systems, our dams and everything is in good shape, and we're prepared for the coming changes with climate change, the increased water flow?
Mr. Chair, I'll get Dwight to respond to that question.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, our systems, we have smaller events, they're constantly tested. One of the most important things with respect to climate change is preparedness. And we work with our municipalities and are developing more preparedness information so that we're prepared for extreme events. But our system is tested with smaller events annually, and that's important to maintain a state of readiness. One of the most difficult things is to maintain a steady state of readiness if you're not having large floods off. So that's why we have a flood coordinators meeting coming up again now in December. People turn over. It's important to continually maintain contact with the emergency management folks in the municipalities and work together to deliver the program here. Also really important to have a warning system. I think one of the things that's being highlighted in BC is that they really didn't have a good effective warning system in place and people were caught off guard. So having an effective warning system, maintaining it, and constantly testing it, I think are all important elements.
Thank you. I just wanted to highlight the importance of what we're doing, and that certainly stresses how important it is what the GRCA does and why we want to make sure the provincial government doesn't reduce the capacity of the GRCA and we end up with situations like we see in British Columbia. Thank you. Thank you to Boyd.
Thank you, Richard. Catherine?
Thank you. And it's just a comment, Mr. Chair, and I wanted to just echo what Richard had to say and also just point out that I think because we are seeing these storms coming up and flooding areas that don't generally have this measure or this amount of flooding is important for our community to recognize that we are doing something about it. It's interesting how much or how many comments I've been receiving because I represent Cambridge. Of course, it had that flood down in 1974, and we were able to change the infrastructure and had GRCA come up and make sure that that kind of flooding doesn't happen again. But there's an increased focus from our residents right now on looking at what's happening on both coasts right now and how important it is that we maintain safety for our system. So I just wanted to add my comment and just say kudos to GRCA, always forward thinking and fully support anything that we can do to message out to our community that we're on top of it in more ways than one. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Jerry?
Just another kudos to staff. I got this mail a couple of weeks ago. Appreciate that. I even got 2 copies. So kudos again to the staff. Thanks.
All right. Well, and I would echo those comments as well. If you take a look at previous boards and current boards and staff going way back, just done an absolutely excellent job with this. And I know that the community, it's one of those things that works so well that it kind of falls into the background and people see floods in Calgary and out west and they may not recognize all the work that's been done over the years to prevent that here. So kudos to previous boards and staff. Are there any further questions? Are there any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Now I believe we're going to move into a closed meeting. Can I get a mover to move into closed? Moved by Catherine, seconded by Richard. Any opposed?
We're live. Sometimes there's a delay. Eowyn, can you please confirm if the live stream is back?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We are live streaming again. We have a couple of motions coming out of our closed session. The first one is that the minutes of the previous closed session be received and approved as amended. Moved by Catherine, seconded by Sue. Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Secondly, that the salary ranges for non-union positions be increased by 2% effective January 1st, 2022. Moved by Les, seconded by Bernie. Questions? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Next meeting is in December,
Mr. Chair,
December 17th. Is there, sorry, somebody have a question?
I have a one little item for other business.
Oh, Warren, of course. Sorry. How negligent of me. I almost committed a year-end faux pas. Go ahead, Warren.
Okay, I'm in a meltdown this morning. I had nothing but computer problems from 8 o'clock till 10 minutes ago. Anyway, I want to give a good news shout out to the mayor and the citizens of Guelph Aramasa Township. Recently, one of your members, your citizens, has been nominated and the recipient of the Nobel Prize in Economics. His name is David Card. He grew up in Guelph Aramasa. He moved elsewhere to further his work, but I think the residents and the mayor probably appreciate David being part of your stable, if you like. So congratulations, a shout out to all of the citizens and the good people of Guelph Aramasa Township.
Well, thank you, Warren. Yeah, the residents are very excited. And, you know, people who knew him or went to school, it's one of those, I went to school with Janis Joplin kind of things. They're all running around very excited. So thank you for bringing that up. And we're very proud to have that happen in our community and certainly in our region. I mean, that's a kudos to us in the region and the province and just all of it. So thank you for that, Warren. That's very much appreciated. Bernie?
Yes, thank you. Unfortunately, I read another article from a similar source running down the condition of the Grand River. I think we should start blowing our horn and get that information out and responding to these negative comments.
Okay, thank you, Bernie. The staff will take that into consideration. Les?
Well, what I have is basically a good news thing. We have most recently, a couple of weeks ago, had a tree planting. We've done a lot of tree planting in Wilmot, and we have the Mike Shout Wetlands Project, which is a 55-acre wetlands project, which is being worked on coordinated with Ducks Unlimited, GRCA, and the township. And it is well underway and is being well received so far by the residents who have showed up to plant several hundred trees on the property. GRCA has planted thousands of trees on the property, and they are working to make this project. There will be over 1 kilometer of boardwalk on this property for people to walk. It'll be part of a trail system. So we're looking forward to all the work that's being done. And I want to do a shout out to Mr. Phil Holst, who is representing Ducks Unlimited and doing the design. So it is a fantastic project, and it is called the Mike Shout Wetlands Project because Mr. Shout, a local developer who was born and raised in Wilmot, has put up to shut up. He put up $1.5 million towards the project. So, and he has also donated like kind of money for trails within town, the Wilmot Township. So we look forward to hopefully having, excuse me, the project completed towards the end of next year. But there is a lot of work, a lot of ground moving, and it will help to also, we hope, mitigate some of the flooding in Hamburg as well. So we look forward to that, and we'll let you know when the opportunity is to go and walk the boardwalk.
Well, thank you, Les. That really is a good news story. And once again, the community stepping up. Thank you. Bernie, I should ask, by the way, can you forward that article to staff that you referred to just a minute ago?
If I may, it was in the Hamilton Spectator, and I believe it was 2 days ago.
Okay. We'll look for it. Okay, thanks, Bernie. All right, is there anything further? So thank you all for, sorry, the audit committee is up. So those folks who are on the audit committee, can we just name them so everybody knows who they are?
Oh, sure. It's you, Sue Foxton, Helen Jowett, Jane Mitchell, Guy Guardhouse, and Brian Coleman, and John Challoner, I believe. Is that correct?
Okay, so we'd ask you folks to remain on after the call. For everyone else, thank you very much for the meeting. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Moved by Richard, second by Warren. Any opposed? All right, we'll see you next month after everyone's done their shopping. Right, Kathy?
Bye-bye. Those who are leaving, safe drive home.